Hello everyone, this is Frank Racz. Big question that I get this time of year, especially where I work at in the springtime. It's cold in northern Indiana right now, and I've been showcasing that stitching technique, so it's kind of been a perfect correlation between the two. But a lot of people have ideas about bass theory. How do we find bass? And it doesn't matter if you're fishing from shore, an inflatable, and a pair of waders. There's some really undisputed scientific facts about actually finding bass that I think that it's really important to convey. The first is that a lot of people are familiar with something that's called the edge factor. And what the edge factor is you have shade edges, weed edges, drop-offs, and you target your favorite presentations around that edge factor, and that's a really good place to start. However, there's a little bit more undisputed science that I really want to convey, and the first is the most under-recognized factor, which I think a lot of the tournament pros actually revolve quite a few of their techniques around, and that is the pH level. Essentially, it's really easy to break down. The pH level is just the acid in the water. And largemouth bass prefer 6.5 to 8.5. Now that's on a scale of like 0 to 10. Of course, obviously 5 would be in the middle. So they like a little bit more acid in the water. There's going to be more bait fish and more green vegetation for them to revolve around. So basically, that's one of the steps in implementing your bass theory. And then, of course, you can go with other things like your drop-offs and your regularities. Now, a lot of people do that. If you have a boat and you have a depth finder, you're looking for depth changes between 5 to 10, 12 feet, depending on how deep of a lake you're fishing. But the real subtlety behind that is in and around those weed edges, and why stitching for that. And later on in the next video, I will show you what that actually does as a breakdown. But what that actually does is it sticks into, you've got your drop-offs and you've got your weeds, and it actually sticks inside of those areas. It's really a fantastic deadly structure approach. So, for my main bass theory, you're just going to look for your pH. That's going to be your one thing. And then your oxygen is going to revolve around that. Bass are always going to be where the pH level is ideal. And there was actually a writer from the 1980s named Larry Larson. It was a concept called the Flora Factor, and it was this kind of science right here is basically where I got a lot of my bass theory from, which is your oxygen and your pH is going to equal your irregularities, and that's where your bass are going to be. So those are your three concepts to recap: pH, oxygen, and vegetation. And it's really just that simple. Bass are not nomadic like salmon and trout. They don't go in open deep water foraging quite a bit unless they have to. For those of you that live in like California or something, you're going to be dealing with bass that are more like that. But in most of your lakes, your bass is pretty much going to pick out that piece of prime location that they like, and they're going to stick there. That's pretty much all there is for bass theory, and keep in mind I'll probably post a couple more things to develop as the conditions change. Thanks.